Are you a new Longhorn breeder eager to educate yourself on market trends and sale prices? Stay in the loop with our text messages. Get the latest updates, events, and insider tips on all things Longhorns delivered straight to your phone.
Stay informed by texting website to 888-700-8131, then reply with Longhorns. That's website to 888-700-8131. Sign up today and take your breeding program to the next level.
Hi there, I'm Molly.
And I'm Jamie, and this is our From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast.
For 15 years now, we've been proudly helping breeders promote hundreds of thousands of pedigree livestock with our easy-to-use animal management-driven website software.
And let's not forget about Hired Hand Live, where over $1 million worth of livestock is sold online each year.
We're excited to bring you market trends, sales data, advice from your fellow breeders, and stories from the ranch.
Our software makes managing your website and your animals a breeze, so you can focus on what you love.
So let us handle your digital chores while you tune in to another episode of From the Pasture with Hired Hand. Today, my guests are Dave Shappee and his daughter Alyssa from Mile High Longhorns in Kiowa, Colorado. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you, Molly. Appreciate the time together.
Well, why don't we start by you both telling me a little bit about yourself and how you got into Longhorns?
Sure, it's certainly a long story, but we'll try to keep it reasonably brief. I think my story, for a little background and context, was lucky to grow up in a version of the agricultural cattle business. My grandfather, on my father's side, he quit school in sixth grade and did a few things for a couple of years, and then started a meat plant, a butcher shop, a slaughterhouse. And so that's what he did. And as my dad got, to working age, he took it over and, ran the meat plant. And then growing up, really, that's from my earliest memories. And I think from the time I could basically walk, I worked in the meat plant with my, grandfather and dad. And so grew up around, different forms of cattle and animals, and did that kind of work. And so always had an appreciation and a bit of a fascination for the cattle industry. I didn't follow in their footsteps when I got to the college age and went off into another passion of mine, which is all things sports. But kind of knew through my life that as I got to this age, always had a dream of having a ranch. And while I was never around Longhorns, I grew up in upstate New York and know there's some terrific breeders in that area of the country that I hope to connect with one day. I just always had a fascination with Longhorns. And so as I again got to this age, we bought a property and bought a couple cows, and that's led to the typical addiction and having a lot of fun with it.
So, Alyssa, how old were you when your family got their first Longhorns?
Oh my gosh, I was probably around 17. Yeah.
And what do you think so far?
I love it. It's been super fun getting to learn about the industry and all the things that come with owning Longhorns. It's been fun.
Dave, when you decided to get the ranch and get going, what made you decide that you wanted Longhorns specifically?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think I've just, always had a fascination with the breed, and it's kind of that old, nostalgic Western iconic image of the Longhorn. I was always, drawn to, and as I can't remember where it started from, but I just know over the years, if I would get to see them, I can remember a trip to Fort Worth that I saw them and absolutely loved them, and we moved to Colorado about 14 years ago, and, going to the stock show here the first time, seeing them there, and it just kind of kept that passion going. But I've just always been drawn to kind of that, again, nostalgic Western image of the Longhorn.
So once you decided that that's the type of cattle that you wanted, how did you go about finding your first ones?
It's a great question. We've heard this story many times, and I kind of follow it, but knowing absolutely nothing, saw a family selling some nearby on Craigslist, and went to visit the ranch, and took our youngest daughter Lauren with me, and they had advertised one cow, but as we got to the ranch, they essentially said that they'd be willing to sell anything that we saw, except for a few of the heifers. And so I instantly fell for a couple cows and along with a young yearling bull. And so much to, probably my family's dismay, we came home with 3 new Longhorns.
Do you still have those 3 on the ranch today?
We don't. And again, kind of funny to admit at this point, but like at that point in time, Molly, I didn't even really fully understand, the registered versus non-registered world, and none of them were registered. And so while I thought they were, the most amazing Longhorns and for unregistered Longhorns, they were really great. But obviously, as we, kind of thought about what our future was going to be in the industry, they just didn't fit the plan, and ended up selling all 3 of those.
So when you did that, and I'm assuming you replaced them with some, tell me about that process.
Yeah, so we do have the typical story too, where shortly thereafter buying those 3, we bought 2 other ones. Those happened to be registered, and one of those we kept. Her name's Lisa Marie, and while she is it doesn't fit kind of the standards of Longhorns of today that people are attracted to, she will be our forever cow and will be forever with us, and she will always remind us of kind of our origin story, so to speak. But after getting those 5, really start to do a lot of research and just tried to start to figure out like what the plan was going to be and what we wanted to do longer term. And really again through listening to lots of podcasts, doing a lot of research, started to learn about things I didn't have exposure to, and then started to work on acquiring registered high quality animals.
So what is some of the advice that you heard on previous podcasts that really help you kind of figure out what you wanted your breeding strategies to be and where you wanted to go with the registered herd once you started building it?
Yeah, if you were going to give someone advice about getting into the industry, you would tell them to do nothing that I or we did. I don't regret any of it. The journey is the fun and has been the fun. But if there's probably an incorrect way to approach it, I probably did it, to be honest. But I think some of the advice, and I think along with listening to podcasts, watching your sales and shows online. I was lucky enough to connect with the McIntyres, Jeremy and Lindsay, and bought our first, I would call high quality heifer from them, got some good advice from them, and was also able to meet the Metcalfes, Mike and Linda, who are here in Colorado. I'll be forever grateful for Mike and Linda, and they certainly gave me and us a lot of great advice and insight. And so I think then really start to think more about understanding genetics, understanding conformation, horn growth, color importance, disposition importance, all of those kinds of things. And so then I started to obviously research genetics and cattle lines, and started to look for cows that I wanted to purchase, heifers specifically, so that we could really begin a true breeding program, if that makes sense.
So the heifer you purchased from McIntyres, I'm assuming that's the JM5 Elite?
It is. She was our first, high quality registered heifer for sure. We love Elsie.
So she's beautiful. When I was going through your site to prepare for today's podcast, she jumped out at me right away. I love the brindles, so I'd be partial to her. And then the cow you mentioned that will have her forever home on your place as well, the Lisa Marie. She's a flashy black and white. Alyssa, do you have a favorite type of Longhorn?
I love Lisa Marie, which is probably partially because we've had her for so long. And I think when we first bought them, they're obviously massive, and I, knowing nothing, they were super scary. And she was kind of like the first one that let me get close to her and kind of like built that relationship with her. So she'll always have a very special place. But I also really love JMB just from like a looking at her standpoint. I think she's super cool, and her horn structure is awesome to me, but JMB's awesome.
So how has your role kind of changed over the years with being involved? Is there anything new that you've taken on or become a part of?
Yeah, I mean, at first it definitely was like just going to the land and kind of getting to feed them treats and just adjusting to owning Longhorns and what that looks like. I guess now sometimes I get to help with the registration of the cows. I think we use TVLA and the other one.
ITLA.
Yep. And so that's been kind of fun to get to learn the paperwork and how we kind of submit those things. And then you mentioned earlier, but I have a 12-year-old sister, and we kind of both take on like a TikTok for the cows, which has been super fun to get to run.
What's your TikTok handle so our listeners can go check it out?
It is Mile High Longhorn.
And do you have one that's blown up, that's got a lot of views yet, or can you tell us about any of them?
We have a couple that have like 2,000 views. Lauren's really good at finding the TikTok trends and kind of like assessing how we're going to apply them so that our cows can do it too. So it's been super fun. And we're hoping to see it continue to grow. So
have you gotten suckered into doing any of the website updates at all yet, or no?
A little bit here and there, but more just kind of seeing what that looks like.
You mentioned in the previous question, you're talking about kind of your breeding plans. So let's go back to genetics and talk a little bit about those. So with some of these heifers that you've purchased, talk to me about the bulls you're going to be crossing them with and what some of your goals that you're hoping to accomplish are.
Yeah, by the way, I'm fascinated with bulls. I don't know how to apply this fascination and passion from like a business perspective, but it's hard for me to keep the quantity of bulls in check because I really, really enjoy bulls and raising bulls for sure. But I think the first bull we acquired was from the Metcalfes in Colorado. Top Gun is his name, and he's developing really, really well. And we'll continue to use him. And then we purchased a colluder son also from the McIntyres, Jam 5 High Society. He's developing really, really nicely as well. There's a lot about colluder I really love. Definitely, one of my favorite bulls in the industry, and have certainly followed him. And then we have a couple other calves. There's a bull that I think is showing promising signs early on. He's out of a bull named Hired Hand, who you probably know, and a cow that we own, DCT Salon, that we bought from that ranch. And I think he came out good size, good color, good disposition so far. And so those are the three bulls that we plan on using for our breeding going forward at this point in time. And then we'll also get involved with some AI. Again, we're a bit of a smaller breeding operation for sure, and so using some AI with heifer sex semen to add some other bulls to our program will be part of what we do as well, Molly.
Where are you hoping to see your herd and kind of your goals in the next 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think the next 2 to 5 years, like we're just this fall having our first crop of calves that where the breeding has taken place on our ranch hit the ground. Like Top Gun's first calf was born recently, and so we're kind of just starting the breeding process. And so I think from a 2-year standpoint, we'll get to see how these bulls mix with the various cows and lines that we've purchased. We focused a little more on buying. I wanted to have a few cows, of course, to kind of round out and complete the herd in terms of getting started. But I focus a little more on buying quality heifers. And then I've also purchased some quality calves, heifer calves to kind of continue to, build out the program. And so I think as those heifers and calves continue to grow, they'll get to breeding age, and, along with the cows, we'll get to see how they mix with these three bulls and some of the AI work we do and go from there.
So do you plan to, down the road, are you going to try to be involved in any of the futurities or the shows or the sales? Is that kind of on your radar at all?
Yeah, definitely. Those are certainly, goals of ours. We want to get, continue to learn more, obviously, and, get ourselves established as a quality, program. And then we really enjoy the sales and futurities a lot. In fact, one of the things that, really got us excited about this industry is when we bought LC from the McIntyres. They were coming up to the Double Down Futurity in the Colorado Springs area to participate. And so they brought LC with them so we could pick her up there. And I'd never been to a futurity before, but we stayed and watched that futurity. I, of course, learned a lot, was there with my wife, Karen, and she even got pretty excited about the futurity event. And that was one of those, pivotal, important moments in our journey so far that really helped kind of shape how we're thinking about our program and what we want to accomplish in the future. And so I tried to focus on, I think I will get the most joy from, you have to start somewhere. So you have to purchase cows to begin with. But what we hope to do is to be able to, breed heifers and bulls that are futurity quality animals. And so that's one of the things that is hopefully in our future.
Alyssa, do you have plans to start going to any of the events or get involved in that way?
That is definitely a goal of mine. I talk about it all the time. It could be super fun to get to tag along and help out in that realm.
Yeah,
what about your sister? Does she have any interest?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, we did just go to while the Double Down was the first futurity we ever observed, we did participate in one recently in Nebraska, the Good Life Futurity. So that's the first one we entered three in, and can't say enough good things about the people that run the Nebraska, Texas Longhorn Association. They were really great to meet. They were great to me, and it was a lot of fun. It was a really fun event, and just continued to spur our enthusiasm on to do more.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Looking for top quality Longhorns and a taste of true Texas spirit? Look no further than Cantera Cattle Company. Our passion for Longhorns shines at Old Gringo Ranch, where tradition meets excellence. Visit us online at CanteraCattleCompany.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for the latest updates and ranch life fun. Ready to experience it yourself? Schedule your visit by emailing canteracattle@gmail.com. Remember, God is great, Longhorns are good, and life is crazy.
Planning a live auction and want to reach more buyers? Hired Hand Live brings the power of the internet to your event, allowing bidders from anywhere to participate in real time. We specialize in integrating online bidding seamlessly with your live auction, ensuring that no one misses out.
Your livestock plus our technical expertise equals one successful auction. Let Hired Hand Live help you expand your reach and maximize your results. Visit hiredhandlive.com to learn more.
From the Pasture by Hired Hand is presented by R3 Hilltop Ranch. Located in Chilton, Texas, R3 Hilltop Ranch has been breeding registered Texas Longhorns since 2006. What began as 3 heifers has grown into our current herd, which you can explore on our website at r3hilltop.com. We're passionate about loud colors, longhorns, and docile temperaments, but it's the easy-keeping, low-maintenance traits of Texas Longhorns that initially attracted us and continue to drive our herd growth. In addition to livestock, we proudly offer certified Longhorn beef products. Visit r3hilltop.com/beef to learn more. Thank you for listening and enjoy exploring our ranch online at r3hilltop.com.
Imagine updating your website and managing your animals at the same time without needing tech experience. With Hired Hand software, it's that easy. Our user-friendly platform is designed specifically for breeders, allowing you to keep your site fresh and your animal records up to date in just a few clicks.
Let us simplify your digital chores while you focus on what you do best. Visit hiredhandsoftware.com and see just how easy it can be. Let's talk a little bit about your ranch name and also being located in Colorado. So I shouldn't assume. Mile High, I think I know where it comes from, but go ahead and tell me how you came up with that name.
Yeah, it wasn't the first name we picked. And as we were getting going and, we did some work and spent a little bit of money with a previous name, as I got thinking more and more about it, it just was, there was nothing there in my mind that signified like what was different about us, and specifically versus like all of the great ranches in Texas. And to me, it just sounded like another one of those potentially. And again, one of our goals is while we love to be part of the industry overall, hope to be able to, contribute meaningfully in a regional sense. And so wanted to, use a name that would signify our location and maybe separate us a little bit from ranches in other parts of the country. And so in debating between using our name or using something like this, we thought that it had kind of a cool ring to it. And, I think for most people, when you hear the term Mile High, it probably invokes an image and it invokes a location. And we thought that may be advantageous for us long term.
I like it. For folks that visit your website, they'll see right at the top kind of the logo that you all came up with, that we helped you with. And then down at the bottom, let's talk about your brand. So it's a 2, a heart, and an arrow under it. So how did you come up with that? Yeah, great question. It's really special to us. So yeah, we love and appreciate the work that you helped us do with the logo first and foremost. It's obviously inspired by the Colorado state flag. So we love that. And then
To take you through the brand, I guess where should I start? So I guess I should start with the number 20. Oddly, maybe 20 has just been a kind of one of those numbers that has been like a meaningful and positive number for our family in various ways. And so happens that we also have a 16-year-old son, happens to be his baseball number. And so it's a bit of a nod to him in the brand and in that number that's meant something to our family. Alyssa and my wife Karen, their favorite symbol, I should say, I take that back. My youngest daughter Lauren and my wife Karen, their favorite symbol is a heart. And so I wanted to include the heart as a nod to Lauren and Karen. And then Alyssa, you'd have to ask her where this came from, but she's always had arrows. I think it kind of signifies forward progress and, looking ahead more than looking backwards. And so the arrow is a nod to my daughter, Alyssa. So the 20, the heart and the arrow, when I look at it, I see my family.
Well, it came together really nicely. It's a nice clean brand, and I'm sure if your plans go as you're hoping, folks will be seeing that a lot on some of those for charity animals in a few years, like you said.
Yep, that's the plan for sure.
Well, what do you feel like has been some of the challenges that you faced so far, just with getting started with your program, but maybe also being located in Colorado, a state that faces a little bit harsher weather, is a little bit about outside of that, kind of that main Oklahoma, Texas area of movement. Let's talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a few factors there. I think to your point, geographically speaking, we're a bit away from, the hub of the industry in Texas. So, but, still confident we can be very involved in this location. Again, work on our regional contributions. I think, grass quality is not the highest in Colorado, and the amount of acres you need to raise, Longhorns from a grazing perspective is certainly a challenge. So I think, providing, high quality feed year round to raise high quality animals is certainly one of the challenges, and our herd has certainly outgrown our pasture size. And so we supplemental feed 12 months a year now. And so we'll continue to work on, adding some acreage, hopefully from either a purchase or lease perspective, so that we can balance that work and that expense a little bit more. But yeah, I think with the ages of our children, and specifically our 6-year-old son playing a lot of baseball, we're obviously committed to supporting him through high school. And I think there's been a lot of sales and futurities I've really wanted to attend, but with all of his baseball playing, we go to his tournaments and support him. So in a couple of years, once he's through high school, it'll open up our time to be able to travel more and get to more of these events. And we kind of plan on using these 2 years to build our program up in a more meaningful way, so that, again, we'll be able to participate more. So outside of that, you mentioned the weather. Certainly winters are a little harder to keep the water available. And I think we all love going out and breaking up ice. Maybe that's not true, but I think those are just a few things that come to mind.
What about market trends? Is there anything that you're seeing in your part of the country that you feel like differs a little bit from, maybe, again, with Texas, Oklahoma kind of being considered the hub, that would influence your breeding decisions or your purchasing decisions a little differently?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're certainly trying to study the marketplace well. I don't know if it's different or not, but certainly I think there's an element of the beef component that is attractive in this part of the country. I think high quality lean beef that Longhorns provide is something that certainly there's a demand for. Obviously, leveraging that channel with an operation like ours is probably something that we're currently exploring, and probably we'll get into a little bit more as that seems advantageous for sure. And then, I think we'll have to work on, like, from a, building on our program and brand awareness kind of thing. I think our reach might have to be a little bit further to, like, contiguous states. But as I've tried to get to know breeders from, places like, Kansas and Nebraska and Utah and other places like that, I think there's enough of a market for, Longhorns in all ways for us to contribute to the industry. And, trying to, again, think about, kind of price points of cattle and, where demands are relative to, certain, again, price points within, raising the cattle. I think we'll work to try to hit a few of those different, price points as we go forward.
Mm-hmm. For sure. All right, Alyssa, I'm going to put you on the spot with the next question. The more embarrassing, the better. Okay. So do you have any funny Longhorn stories related that you can share?
Yeah, it's mostly embarrassing for me, probably more than anyone. I think it was probably last winter, maybe. I had taken my dad's truck out to the land. Like we had kind of talked about, sometimes we go out there with a pickaxe to break up the ice layer that'll form above their little water tank. And so I'd gone out to do that. And there's like a gate that separates like two sections of our land, if you will. And I, again, was kind of, getting used to having big Longhorns around me. And they were right next to the gate that I needed to get through. It was windy that day, so I was trying to get this truck through the gate, and it kept like swinging closed before I could like actually get through it. And so about the third time I had gone out and pushed it open, I was like, all right, I just need to get through this gate. Like I'm just gonna have to like gun it. And so I had opened the gate, and was like driving the truck through, and then the wind just swung it right into the truck. So that was how we did our first farm truck dent. And in the moment it wasn't super funny, but now when I look back at it, it was probably my funniest and most embarrassing story.
Is the dent still there? Does it remind you often?
We're still there, yep.
Yeah, in the scope of dents, this would qualify as an extra large.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent dent.
Well, that's what farm trucks are for, right?
Yeah, that's it. I was so scared. I was called my dad right after, and I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like I just put this massive dent in your truck," and he was like, "I'm gonna have to leave the country. Like I'm so sorry." He was like, "No, that's what a farm truck's for." And I was like, "Oh."
Well,
what about you, Dave? Do you have any funny stories?
Yeah, it goes right back to my first purchase, and it's again really more embarrassing than funny for me. But being so naive and not knowing what I was doing, I had to buy a trailer, of course, and didn't think through this thoroughly. And, it was essentially an old 6-foot wide horse trailer. And when I showed up to the ranch to pick up those 3 cows, the trailer was not adequate for Longhorns, period, let alone 3 cows. And so trying to get, the yearling bull wasn't so bad, but the 2 mature cows, trying to get them in that trailer, I felt ridiculously embarrassed. And I felt so sorry for that couple that was trying to get them in the trailer. That process was unbelievable. And if it were filmed, that would have trended on TikTok, I promise you. So it was awful. And so we adjusted our trailer quickly thereafter.
I like your terminology. You adjusted your trailer. You upgraded, right?
Definitely an upgrade. So I can't imagine what that couple was thinking after I left, but I have a good idea.
So who on the ranch is in charge of naming your future Longhorns?
Great question.
I think we kind of all take a turn in naming a cow. Like someone will just have a really great idea and we'll all be like, oh yeah, that's perfect. And whatever sticks.
Yeah.
So do you try to stick with genetics? Do you have sports theme or color? Do you have any themes to them?
Yeah, it's kind of all the above. And I think the kids definitely get the biggest percentage of the vote. It can be music themed, it can be sports themed, or it can just be something that parents or grandparents inspire us with. So, but yeah, there's lots of wild ideas that get thrown against the wall. There's no doubt about that.
So do you all do you vote on which one you like best, or who gets the final say?
Honestly, it's kind of whoever has like the better name. We all just are kind of like, oh yeah, that's the one. And then
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, it's Alyssa and Mom get to, final veto power on thumbs up or thumbs down.
There you go. All right. Well, do each of you have any breeders or herds that you really admire and, kind of hope that maybe someday you're in their shoes in terms of quality or quantity or all of the above?
Yeah, for sure. And there's so many fantastic breeders out there. It's hard to single out any one or even a few because you try to learn from all of them, right? And, I think, again, I can't say enough good things about Mr. Mike Metcalfe and all he's, the time he spent with me and how he's helped me. And his name is always the first one that comes to my mind based on the time I've been able to spend with him. And I think from a breeder perspective, I, have had the chance to go to Dickinson's Ranch a couple times and spend some time with Daryl, which has been absolutely incredible. And I watch what he does pretty closely to try to study what he does and why. And obviously that's a whole different scale with an incredible program, but I try to pay attention a lot to what goes on, there. And again, the McIntyres have been really great to me, and I certainly admire. Heard their building; it's incredible, and so I pay attention to what they do and why they do it. And I think those have been a couple that I probably watch, the most.
Do you have any different ones, Alyssa? Like, are there any you saw at the recent futurity, or any that you follow on TikTok or anything like that?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to connect with Lindsay McIntyre earlier this year. I was interested in designing some ear tags for our herd, and when Elsie got on our land, I loved her ear tag, and I just loved how different it was and how much it stood out just amongst other ear tags I had seen. So I had a chance to connect with her to kind of hear about some of the things that she did and companies that she used, and she was so helpful and awesome to connect with. So that's who comes to my mind.
And now let's hear from our advertisers.
Do you sometimes feel like you're the only one who doesn't have it all figured out? Rural life can be isolating, but it doesn't have to be.
Welcome to Ag's Most Okayest Farm Girls, the podcast for women who are craving connection, laughter, solidarity, camaraderie, and just overall encouragement in your everyday life and dreams.
Each week, your hosts, Annalise, that's me, and Courtney will cover topics such as farm life, mom life, making money online, side hustles, hobbies, sharing on social media, jobs off the farm, and so much more.
Us rural gals need to stick together, so saddle up for some fun, real, and unsolicited advice and stories from our everyday farm lives.
Grab a drink, we're Ag's Most Okayest Farm Girls, and we're here to help. Listen wherever you find podcasts.
Hey, if you love From the Pasture with Hired Hand, why not go check out my podcast, The Big Iron Podcast with Andrew Shigori, where we dive into the world of registered Texas Longhorns and what it means to be an agriculture entrepreneur in the modern world, with a little southern flair, of course. Find the Big Iron Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Normally, I would ask you all kind of what advice you would give to new breeders or what advice you wished you received, but I feel like we kind of covered that already towards the beginning of the interview. So, Alyssa, I'm going to ask you another question that wasn't on the list. Hopefully you don't mind.
Okay.
But what advice would you give to folks who want to start a TikTok or want to do more with reels and that sort of stuff on social media, but are maybe a little intimidated, not knowing the technology or not knowing where to start?
I think I always tell people just to have fun with it and be authentic with it. I think people really latch onto things that are really authentic to you. And if you're having fun with it, the chances that people watching the video are going to have fun with it too are pretty high. So that would be my advice.
That's great advice. All right, let's do some rapid fire questions here. So we'll get one quick answer from each of you, if that's okay. First question is, what is your favorite food to snack on as you're driving around your pasture, enjoying your animals?
Yeah, it's favorite or necessity, but it fits both probably. So, oftentimes when you're out there working, you skip meals. And so typically beef jerky and beef sticks are always in the truck and qualify as meals frequently.
Mine's got to be popcorn.
Any special flavor, or you're just the plain
Just
old
like
salt and butter?
Popcorn.
What about your favorite go-to farm tool?
It's a good one.
It is a good one. Well, the hay, we, cut the strings, and all the bags we cut open. It's probably my knife.
I think I feel weird when I think about going and think about petting the cows. It's probably my hands because touching the baby is so fun.
I like it. I wondered if yours was going to be related to the truck or the gate at all. So I was curious. What if you could only use one word to describe your herd?
I'd say family.
Yeah, it's a little different direction, a little cheesy, but the word dream comes to mind because it's something I've dreamed about for so long. So as I get to watch them and take in all that they do, it's certainly rewarding.
That's awesome. It fits in good with my next question as well. So would Colorado be your dream ranch location, or is there somewhere else that you would aspire to be?
Yeah, for me, it is the dream location. Although, again, I'm envious of places that had better grass without question. So it certainly enters my mind. But yeah, we were fortunate enough to find some property that's kind of up on a ridge, and off to the west, we can always see the Rocky Mountains, and this time of year, the snow-capped mountains. And it's again, feel pretty blessed, pretty lucky to be able to sit on the property and see those beautiful animals with the Rocky Mountains in the background. So that's definitely our dream come true. Yep.
What would you say your ideal herd size is?
This is where you get some variation in the family. I think most would say like 3 or 4, but no, I feel like that, we'll probably stay in that 20 to 30 range is probably the size of breeder we'd stay.
What if you had to pick just one favorite all-time cow, dead or alive?
Yeah, there's so many, and again, I think through all the other podcasts, there's certainly been a lot called out. I'll throw out a little bit of maybe a unique, and I don't know if it's random or not, but obviously the Sillers have an amazing herd, and they have a cow right now named Iron Trophy. She's a bit older, but her horn shape is like my perfect horn shape and what's most attractive to me. And I think she's a beautiful cow with obviously great genetics, but Iron Trophy is one of my favorite cows I've come across on various websites.
What about you, Alyssa? Do you have one that comes to mind or no?
I'm always going to be very partial to Lisa Marie. She'll always be my favorite.
What about if I asked you the same question regarding a bull?
Yeah, this one's equally as hard. There's calling out one. I think there's 4 that come to mind quick. I love Jeremiah's 2911, one of my favorites for sure. I've mentioned Cluter before. Love Cluter. There's a bull lineup at Dickinson's I love, but Cut and Dried. I think he's awesome. I love Cut and Dried, and I'm happy to have some genetics linked to him in the herd. And so far, again, most of my exposure, admittedly, has been online and on websites, not being able to get to a lot of events yet. Based on what I've seen, I'd have to give him my number 1 slot.
What about you, Alyssa? Do you have a favorite bull?
Mine's probably more on like a sentimental note, but our first ever calf on the land was a bull. And we couldn't come up with a name for him, so we just kept calling him Baby. So then that kind of like started us in like the music industry name. So we ended up calling him Da Baby after the rapper. But because he was our first one, he'll probably be my favorite bull for now.
Well, Dave, when I asked you that question, you touched on kind of our next topic here. You mentioned that you look at a lot of websites. So how much time do you think you spend looking at Longhorn websites in a week?
Yeah, definitely a lot, and it can ebb and flow a little bit, but it's in the double digits. So I would say 10 to 12 hours a week, probably.
We get a lot of links in the family group chat for sure.
Some families share memes. You guys are sharing Longhorn links, huh?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, who would you say are the last 3 Longhorns in your search history, or maybe the last 3 in your group chat?
We did just purchase 3 heifer calves from Dickinson's out in Ohio, so that would be one for sure. I think most recent probably I've been on DCT cattle, Sillers, been on McIntyre Farm, so those are some more recent ones.
Do you feel like you have a favorite hired hand website besides your own, like one that you're constantly going back to, whether it be for reference or to see what they've posted new or anything like that?
Yeah, I can't say that I have like necessarily a favorite. It seems to go depending on what the purpose or intent is. So I think I guess I would just obviously I've used Facebook a lot, and I think when either I see people's posts directly or through some of the Longhorn groups like Longhorn Friends and some of that, when something there, I'll link back to their sites and see what's new in their herd, if they've put anything new in sale pens, things like that. So I know it's not directly your question, but I just want everyone to know I appreciate the posts that they do and keeps us engaged and entertained and learning. And I think those are things that cause me to go back and look at people's sites. Obviously, you all do an amazing job with hired hand sites. So I guess if you force me to answer Diamond B, I do spend a fair bit of time on their site. So maybe that one would be my answer.
So at the time that we're recording this, your hired hand site hasn't been live for a super long time, but what would you say when you're in there making updates or, posting on social media, that sort of stuff? What would you say is your favorite feature to the back end of the website?
Like the simplicity, it just the user friendliness. It's so easy to go in and add information to measurements or update photos. It's super easy to add animals to, and then being able to quickly link back to pedigrees of cows or progenies of cows on the front side is amazing. So those are things that come to mind.
Well, you mentioned earlier in our recording that you have participated in some of the sales over Hired Hand Live. Is there anything that you like about that, or any stories that you can share from using Hired Hand Live to grow your herd?
Yeah, it's great. I do this. The family loves this. So if there's an event going on that you're broadcasting, which are most of them, I do the screen mirroring, and so it's on the giant TV in the living room, and they can hear the auctioneers going away and all the great pedigree reader work that goes on, and so it's kind of blasting through the main level of the house, which I think they love. So it's just a lot of fun to be able to participate in all of them, despite not being able to travel very much at this point in time. And I think just all those things that matter so much, like the sound quality, and I think the pedigree readers and auctioneers are mindful of the audience that's participating online, and all that's super appreciated and super important. So thank you for that.
Of course. Thank you for using it. Do you all feel like, are you a family that kind of a new sale catalog or a new sale posting comes out? Do you go through and look through everything and maybe decide if you're going to bid on something or make a purchase that fits your herd?
Yeah, for sure. We have a stack of those catalogs. I admittedly use both. I tend to use, your online postings more than anything, but certainly do use the catalogs as well. And if I'm honest, a bit of a reluctancy just based on like transportation. So I've got to get more comfortable knowing that there's haulers there that will be able to, take care of delivery, so to speak. Have done a lot of bidding. I don't think I've actually won a bid yet, though. And I think a couple times I've been reluctant just based on the hauling. And I know you all do a great job of listing haulers and, ensuring their availability. But that's probably something I just got to get a little more confident in myself.
Well, and that's another of those challenges of being where you're at geographically as well. That sometimes it can be a little more expensive or a little trickier to make sure the timing and the weather and everything is going to work. So I get that. Well, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground today, but is there anything that either of you want to share more about your program or your animals that I haven't asked you or that we haven't covered?
No, thank you for covering that ground. I just, want to say a really big thank you to all of the breeders that have participated in podcasts like this previous, or like Pickup Truck Confessions, other, podcasts, Andrew Shappee or Bear Davidson's podcast. We listen to those as well. And, for like a new breeder out here in Colorado, all that, they have all shared in those platforms. And then, the quality, posts on Facebook, like I mentioned, they have helped me and us more than like words could describe. And so I just really appreciate the way the industry comes together and, contributes in those various ways. That's meant a lot. I think we just, want to serve the industry well, continue to earn our way to being a reputable breeder, and one day have animals that people that are looking to add to their herd or grow their herd, they'll be able to check out Mile High Longhorns and see if we have something that would be right for their program, and really enjoy the youth aspect too of the Longhorn industry. And one of our other goals is to continue to get more involved in supporting the various ways that we in the industry can support our youth.
Do you have anything else to add, Alyssa?
I echo that. It's super fun to get to learn from everyone around us, and seeing the ways that this has kind of brought our family together in a new way too is super fun. It's been a blast. And I'm very grateful for everything and everyone.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to join me today. And we'll be sure to link your TikTok and your website and all of the other breeders that you mentioned in our show notes as well, so folks can go and check all of that out. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much, Molly, and can't thank your team at Hired Hand enough for helping again a new program like us through so many steps of this. Your team has been absolutely wonderful, and feel great about being connected to you all.